do have theirs. Members of the National Assembly and the Senate there are just engaging, catching up. The Honorable Damaon Lekina, Senator Narok County, donning cultural attire. You will remember that this is something new. And of course, during these times, we are experiencing a new normal. And he did have a similar outfit on Tuesday during Senate proceedings. And that particular outfit was given the thumbs up by none other than the Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kenneth Lusaka. And so that will be the reason he is wearing that Maasai cultural attire. This is a broadcast made possible by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. And of course, it is live on all platforms. You will find it on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Similar broadcast underway on KBC Radio Taifa. Proceedings there guided by my colleague Samuel Musita. My name is Vereso Mwanga, and I want to welcome you to this particular special sitting as we await the entry of the President. At this very moment, His Excellency is within the precincts of Parliament, having arrived at about 10 minutes, or rather 20 minutes past the hour, which is 2 p.m. At the moment, he is at the Senate lounge, where he is getting a brief before making his way here. It will be his first speech since we witnessed a change in the House leadership as far as the majority party and minority party leadership is concerned in both the Senate and the National Assembly. Currently, we have the Honorable Amos Kimunya as the leader of majority here in the National Assembly, where this special sitting will be undertaken. His counterpart in the Senate is the Honorable Samuel Pogisio. And also interesting times, really, in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, an issue we expect the head of state to tackle or to address this afternoon, by at least giving the status as per the national or government outlook. So far, we have 65,804 cases of coronavirus reported in the country. The death toll is on the rise at 1,180 as per statistics released by the Ministry of Health yesterday, that is Wednesday, the 11th of November 2020. So far, 2,148 health workers have succumbed to the virus in the line of duty. And so this is quite an issue. It is a global matter, and one that has cascaded down to Kenya, which is really feeling its impact, an impact that has stretched to all sectors of the economy. And we expect the President to highlight that this afternoon. Just a brief of what he spoke to last year. It was on the 4th of April 2019 in this very chambers. The head of state at that time lauded the success of devolution and all the players involved in making sure devolved units in the country are working. The head of state praising Parliament for what he termed as a steady guiding hand in ensuring the country implements its transformative agenda. He also spoke to the economy, noting that it had grown by 6.1%, also alluding to the government Big Four agenda, an agenda that speaks to food security, manufacturing, affordable housing, and affordable healthcare, and we expect that he will be addressing that this afternoon, as well as how far we have gone as a country in the war against graft. Earlier this week, he did receive the annual report from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and he challenged that entity to prosecute high-profile cases to conclusion. Last year in his speech, he mentioned and was very categorical that there will be no turning back in the fight against corruption and impunity in Kenya. The president saying there will be no sacred cows, no compromise, and that the fight against corruption was a fight for the soul of the nation. The security of the country is another matter that we expect him to address this afternoon. Last year, he alluded to a strong national security, saying the response to external and transnational security threats is enhanced and has been determined by reforms to immigration systems and the strengthening of border security and their management. And so we expect to hear what more has been done. Of course, another area that Kenyans are anticipating is the Building Bridges initiative. There is that new report that was released a fortnight ago, and a public launch done at the Bomas of Kenya. Debate is still ongoing over that particular matter, and we will be waiting to hear from the head of state. As you can see, there are a number of invited guests. We've just seen that interaction there by the Deputy President, Honorable Dr. William Ruto, former Premier Raila Odinga there, Wiper Party Leader Kalonzo Musyoka. On your screens now, the head of state, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, accompanied by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, and the Speaker of the Senate, Kenneth Lusaka. They are coming into the chambers so that the program can get underway this afternoon. A live broadcast brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.
Naam, Rais
Let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to these leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to enhance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen. Your Excellency, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Justin Muturi, Honorable Members of Parliament, Article 1321B of the Constitution of Kenya requires the President to address a special sitting of the Parliament of Kenya once every year and at any other time. Further, Article 1321C requires the President to, among others, once every year, report in address to the nation all the measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of national values set out in Article 10 of the Constitution. In addition, Article 247 of the Constitution requires the President, in his capacity as the Chairperson of the National Security, NSC, to report to Parliament annually on the state of the security of the Republic. In this regard, pursuant to Article 1321B and C, 1 and 2 of the Constitution and Senate Standing Orders number 22.1 and 2, upon request by the Presidency, vide letter reference number SH/15 dated 23rd October 2020, I gave notice of today's special sitting to the Honorable Senators by Gazette Notice number 8976, which was published in the Kenya Gazette on Friday, 6 November 2020. Accordingly, Honorable members, this special sitting is properly convened. I thank you.
Your Excellency, the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, CGH, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of Kenya Defense Forces, the Right Honorable Speaker of the Senate, Ken Saka, Honorable Members of Parliament, Article 132, Clause 1, Paragraph B of the Constitution of Kenya requires the President to address a special sitting of Parliament once every year and at any other time. Further, Article 132, Clause 1, Paragraph C requires the President to once every year report in an address to the nation on measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of our national values. Additionally, the same article provides that the President shall submit a report for debate to the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling international obligations of the Republic. In this regard, and pursuant to the same article, paragraphs B, C, Romans 1, 2, and 3 of the Constitution, and the provisions of Standing Order number 22 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, by Gazette Notice number 8975, which was published in the Kenya Gazette on 6th of November 2020, I gave notice of this special sitting to the members of the National Assembly. Accordingly, honourable members, this special sitting is properly convened. Your Excellency, allow me, in the usual parliamentary practice, to recognize some key invited guests with us here today. Seated at the Speaker's row, I wish to recognize the Honorable Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, the former Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya and the African Union's High Representative for Infrastructure Development in Africa, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, and the former Vice Presidents of the Republic of Kenya, the Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka and the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. May I also accord special recognition to the following other distinguished guests seated at the Speaker's Gallery, being the Honorable Wycliffe Oparanya, EGH, the Governor of Kakamega County, and also the Chairperson of the Council of Governors, and the Honorable Mike Sonko, the Governor of Nairobi. They are all welcome to Parliament today. Your Excellency, I take notes and I'm grateful for your acceptance to preside over the launch of the Kiswahili version of the National Assembly Standing Orders after today's address. This is going to be the second major milestone towards the use of Kiswahili in parliamentary proceedings after the first one in 1974, which was undertaken following a directive to Parliament by the founding father, His Excellency Jomo Kenyatta. Towards this end, I'm grateful that our public universities partnered with us in making the translation of the English version of our standing orders into Kiswahili. Of particular mention in this regard, Your Excellency, is the University of Nairobi, represented here today by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Stephen Kitahi Kiama, and Kenyatta University, represented by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Paul Wainaina, and Moi University, represented today by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Isaac Kosgei. I acknowledge their presence. Your Excellency, accompanying the Vice Chancellors are the following Kiswahili experts who deserve special mention because they worked directly with the National Assembly team to make possible the translation of our standing orders to Kiswahili. They are Professor Mwangi Irihe, Professor Kitula Kingei, Professor Sierra Momanyi, Dr. Robert Oduori, Dr. Miriam Osore, Dr. James Michira, Mr. Vincent Magugu, and Mr. Nuhu Bakari. I salute them all. In the same breath, Your Excellency, I also wish to thank members of staff who painstakingly worked with the experts to deliver the Kiswahili standing orders. A special mention goes to the Clerk of the National Assembly, Mr. Michael Sialai, and Mrs. Samuel Njoroge and Kipkemboi Arab Kirui, the Director and Deputy Director of the Directorate of Legislative and Procedural Services, respectively. Honored members, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my singular honor and privilege to invite His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces to address this special sitting of Parliament. I thank you, Your Excellency.
Asanteni sana. The speakers, or the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Speaker of the Senate, honorable members of Parliament, and all our distinguished guests, fellow Kenyans, it is my great pleasure today to join you as I report to the people of Kenya on the state of our nation. Indeed, I return to this esteemed chamber as well as a report on the state of our national security. Mr. Speakers, I wish from the onset to assure you that the state of our nation is strong, resilient, and brimming with the promise of an even brighter tomorrow. I deliver this State of the Nation address in the midst of extraordinary global, economic, social, and health disruptions which have not spared us. These disruptions necessitated the rescheduling of this address for about 6 months. So before I embark on that solemn constitutional duty, I note with satisfaction the critical role Parliament has continued to play in facilitating and driving the realization of our national vision by appropriating resources and by oversighting the executive at both levels, the judiciary of our republic. I particularly commend both houses for your superlative support for the measures sought by the executive with regard to the national emergency response to the coronavirus pandemic, and for approval of all statutory instruments issued under the Public Health Act and the Public Order Act as part of the containment measures rolled out to stem the spread of this deadly disease. I also convey my gratitude to the National Assembly for the expeditious consideration of my nominees to various state offices, including ambassadors, high commissioners, and permanent representatives to Kenya's missions abroad. And I note that the rollout of the unique personal identification number, Huduma number, with all its attendant benefits, is now fully on course. We are desirous of accelerating the implementation of our national transformative agenda. In this regard, I urge Parliament to prioritize the consideration of various seminal bills that are pending before the legislature, such as the National Aviation Management Bill, which once enacted will anchor the turnaround of the pride of Africa, our national carrier, Kenya Airways. Also before the House is the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, the Business Amendment Bill number 2 of 2020, and the proposed legislation on the administration of referenda and on enhancing governance and on deepening our anti-corruption efforts. Honorable members, as we ushered the third decade of the 21st century, we as a country were invaded by locusts threatening to disseminate our food baskets and the livelihood of millions of our farmers. In the far east part of the globe, a new disease, COVID-19, was emerging, devastating millions of people. The World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 outbreak a public health emergency of international concern on the 30th of January 2020, and further went on to declare it a pandemic on the 11th of March 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has led to an unprecedented loss of life, global economic slowdown, the postponement of major cultural, religious, political, and sporting events, including the 2020 Olympic Games. It also led to the shutting down of borders and airspaces, the closure of institutions of learning, disruption of production and supply chains, a massive strain on health systems in every nation on earth, and tremendous pressure on individuals, families, communities, and entire nations. On the 28th of February 2020, through Executive Order Number 2 of 2020, I established a framework to upscale and coordinate Kenya's preparedness and response to the coronavirus threat. Kenya's first case of COVID-19 was confirmed on the 13th of March 2020. In the days and weeks that followed, my government put in place a series of public health measures to stem the spread of COVID-19. These included Kenya's first ever nationwide curfew since independence, the restriction of movement into and out of most affected counties, the shutdown of learning institutions, a ban on public and social gatherings, restriction on the number of passengers in public service vehicles, among other containment measures. Our health institutions also ramped up their preparedness by training their staff on management of the disease, by creating isolation areas, and by procuring the deployment and deploying the relevant equipment and medication. Despite these commendable efforts, as of this morning, Thursday, the 12th of November 2020, we have reported a total of 66,723 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in our country, and sadly, also a total of 1,203 deaths since this tragedy fell upon us, out of which we can say that 23 persons succumbed to the disease over the last 24 hours. Our hearts go out to the families who have lost loved ones to coronavirus. Our thoughts and prayers are with those who are undergoing isolation or treatment with respect to this disease, and we wish them a quick recovery, a quick and complete recovery. Honorable speakers, honorable members, I would like at this juncture to request all of you to rise on your feet and join me in observing a minute of silence in honor of the memory of 1,289 Kenyans who have succumbed to this deadly disease. I thank you. Honorable speakers, it is my plea to this House and to all Kenyans that we must not succumb to COVID fatigue. We must not backtrack from our vigilant fight against this pandemic. And on our part, as leaders, our stamina for discipline must not diminish. If the people fall short of giving their best at this time, we, the leaders, have no option but to give our all. As I said recently, we must know the way, go the way, but also show the way. Mr. Speaker, we also once again honor and commend all our frontline health workers across the country, and we shall forever be grateful for their service under tremendous strain and challenging conditions. We also recognize and honor all other first responders, frontline staff, and essential workers who have selflessly gone above and beyond the call of duty and ensured that the Kenya flame continued to burn bright. The COVID-19 pandemic began against the backdrop of a steady economic growth rate of 5.4% in 2019. Our focus in implementing the Kenya Vision 2030 and its medium-term plan, dubbed the Big Four Agenda, has been bearing fruit. As a result, most of the major economic sectors evidenced impressive growth last year, including manufacturing, agriculture, tourism, and financial services. However, when it became apparent that the COVID-19 pandemic threatened to erode the significant economic gains we had made in 2019 and preceding years, on the 25th of March 2020, I did announce state interventions to cushion Kenyans against adverse economic effects of COVID-19 pandemic that warranted the national exchequer to forego taxes amounting to Kenya shillings 176 billion. These tax measures included the temporary suspension of the listing with the credit reference bureaus of any person, micro, small and medium enterprise, and corporate entities whose loan accounts had fallen overdue or was in arrears. 2, the immediate reduction of VAT from 16% to 14%. 3, 100% tax relief for all persons earning up to Kenya shillings 24,000. 4, reduction of pay as you earn from 30% to 25%. 5, reduction of corporation tax from 30% to 25%. Indeed, number 6, we did also instruct that all ministries were to pay approximately Kenya shillings 13 billion of verified pending bills so as to improve liquidity in the economy and ensure that businesses remained afloat by enhancing their cash flows, with the private sector also being encouraged to clear all outstanding payments owed within themselves. The Kenya Revenue Authority was directed to expedite the payment of all verified VAT refunds claims amounting to Kenya shillings 10 billion within 3 weeks, or in the alternative, allow the offsetting of withholding VAT in order to improve cash flows for businesses. Number 8, that Kenya shillings 6 billion from the Universal Health Coverage Kitty was to be immediately appropriated strictly towards supporting counties and the recruitment of additional health workers to support in the management of the spread of COVID-19. And number 9, the lowering of the central bank rate from 8.25% to 7.25% so as to prompt commercial banks to lower interest rates applicable to their borrowers and thereby availing much needed affordable credit to micro, small and medium enterprises across the country. Number 10, the lowering of the cash reserve ratio from 5.25% to 4.25% so as to provide additional liquidity of Kenya shillings 35 billion to commercial banks in order to directly support borrowers that were distressed as a result of the economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And number 11, that the Central Bank of Kenya was to provide flexibility to banks with regard to the requirements applicable to loan classification and provision of loans that were performing as of the 2nd of March 2020. In addition, my administration with the support of Parliament, further initiated an 8-point economic stimulus program amounting to some 56.6 billion Kenya shillings. The major objective of the program was to return the economy to the growth trajectory it was on pre-corona by increasing demand for local goods and services, cushioning vulnerable Kenyans, securing household food security for the poor, and creating employment and incomes. More importantly, the program sought to enhance liquidity in support of the business sector, particularly micro and small enterprises. Accordingly, we set aside a further Kenya shillings 5 billion for the operationalization of the credit guarantee scheme. The recovery program also targets to revamp a broad spectrum of economic sectors by hiring 5,000 health workers and 11,000 interns, even as it supports our teachers as they continue to enhance the delivery of knowledge to our children. It further seeks to create 100,000 job opportunities for the youth, besides implementing a subsidized farm input scheme for vulnerable households, and parts of the resource allocated will be utilized on the ongoing fabrication of 250,000 school desks crafted by local artisans. Mr. Speakers, despite the very difficult times that we have faced as a nation, our people have remained resilient. In the face of tremendous economic challenges and the health crisis we are facing, the majority of us have truly been our brother's keeper. Not only have we stood with our family members and friends going through hard times, we have also acted responsibly by following the laid down public health directives. But fellow Kenyans, we are yet to get out of the woods, and so I urge all Kenyans to keep doing that which is honorable and right. As a nation, we will overcome and thereafter soar to even greater heights. Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought to the fore the urgent need for us to upscale our implementation of the universal health coverage pillar of our Big Four, which pillar seeks to eradicate the poverty of dignity and transition our nation into an era where no Kenyan should be forced to sell their land in order to settle their medical bills, or be forced to make a choice between buying much-needed medicine and using money to feed their children. An impossible choice. Last year, I informed Parliament that the national government, in partnership with the county governments, was piloting the universal healthcare program in the counties of Nyeri, Machakos, Kisumu, and Isiolo, in preparation for a rollout nationwide. I am pleased today to report that the pilot program for universal healthcare was successfully implemented, and out of it, we have isolated critical learning points, enhancements to my administration's health policy priorities going forward. As we inch closer to the national rollout of the universal health coverage, I also, a fortnight ago in Mombasa, launched the biometric registration for the universal health coverage scheme. Similarly, my administration is instituting far-reaching reforms of NHIF as it perfects the medical insurance scheme. Honourable Members of Parliament, it is notable too that there has been a phenomenal increase in mental illness across the country and indeed around the world, which has caused serious national distress and anguish in our families. As a government that cares, I have established an office in the Ministry of Health with the full responsibility of spearheading our national response to this latest disruption to our social order and our nation's wellness. To institutionalize this initiative, I have issued an executive order establishing an ultra-modern national mental health hospital and also elevated Mathare National Teaching Referral Hospital as a semi-autonomous specialized hospital, and I shall be looking to this House to support in the funding of this facility. The East Africa's premier mental health facility will be established to offer training, research in psychiatry, specialized psychiatric services, forensic psychiatric services, child and adolescent mental services, and substance abuse-related and addictive disorders treatment and rehabilitation services. Challenges to our public health notwithstanding, I am confident that in partnership with the county governments, we are on course to realize the aspirations that we have of universal health coverage for all. Honorable members, a nation's future is its children. As custodians of and trustees for future generations, it is our duty to protect, nurture, and mold our young children into responsible citizens. Our children embody the only true guarantee of continuity of this project that we call Kenya. To this end, my administration continues to institute far-reaching reforms within our education sector. And in January last year, we successfully completed the rollout of the competency-based curriculum, an exercise which, while notwithstanding its challenges, is one that has nevertheless been fully embraced by all stakeholders in the education sector. As at the end of 2019 calendar year, we had been able to achieve a textbook-to-pupil ratio of 1:1 for grades 1 to 3. I assure this distinguished sitting that the journey to replace the 844 system with a new fit-for-purpose curricula is well underway, and refinements are being undertaken in the course of implementation. Honorable members, as a parent and also as a grandparent, I share in the pain and frustration of most parents in having our children home for nearly an entire year. However, as a responsible government, we put the health and safety of the children as the paramount consideration. The gradual and phased reopening of schools, parents, in having our children home for nearly an entire year. However, as a responsible government, we put the health and safety of the children as the paramount consideration. The gradual and phased reopening of schools that began with the examination classes is being carefully monitored at all levels so as to ensure that our young Kenyans are safe and secure as they continue preparing for their national examinations. The Ministry of Education will, within 14 days of the date hereof, announce the 2021 academic calendar, with all other classes expected to resume learning in January of 2021. Still on the subject of our basic education, I made a commitment to the nation during my last State of the Nation address that no child should be left behind, meaning that no child be denied their right to access education. I am pleased to report to this House that for the second year we have been able to achieve a transition rate of 100% from primary to secondary schools. And even as we prepare to reopen schools, I once again reiterate that no child will be left behind, even those who unfortunately have transitioned into being young parents. Honorable Speaker, we must say that in the face of these undoubtedly impressive gains, we must guard against resting on our laurels. The next frontier in the quest to providing education for all is to improve our education in Kenya by enhancing quality of education, both in terms of physical structure as well as content. It is evident that our public day and boarding secondary school infrastructure is overstretched. As a result, our students are suffering congestion in both classes and dormitories. These challenges, however real, must not stop us from pursuing what we know to be the right thing for our children. Rather, they should act as motivation for us to work even harder. Through a combination of interventions, both policy and financial, involving the Ministry of Education, county governments, and members of the National Assembly, through the National Government Constituency Development Fund, we shall have the necessary resources to address the infrastructure gap to our education sector conclusively within the next 24 months. In this regard, I therefore appeal to members of the National Assembly that the use of funds under your oversight should be used primarily to respond to the immediate and short-term needs of our learners. Currently, there is an urgent need for construction and equipping of more dormitories, classes, and other amenities to further facilitate ease of learning for our children. Indeed, conscious of the fact that significant financial resources will be deployed towards the construction of at least 12,500 new classrooms and related school facilities. And in that regard, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development have been instructed that by the 1st of December 2020 to issue a new set of building guidelines for school infrastructure that allows the use of appropriate and cost-effective building technologies suited to the varied geographies of our nation. The intervention of these guidelines will achieve transparent and standardized bills of quantity that will guarantee value for taxpayer money. For every shilling that we put into school infrastructure, we must seek to obtain more classes built to acceptable standards. Fellow Kenyans, honorable members, Mr. Speakers, on the state of our economic development at Article 132, read with Article 10 of our Constitution, I am required to report to Parliament on a wide array of economic, social, and relational achievements. I call the sum total of these achievements our economic development. Honourable members, economic development is not about intentions and activities. It is about results. It is not about the volume of what we did. It is about the impact of what we achieved. In other words, economic development is the measure of the tangible, positive transformation of the well-being and the quality of life of our people. During this year's reporting, I will focus on 4 areas of primary thrust and situate the 4 areas within the broad framework of the Big Four. And I must mention at the onset that the Big Four is not a project, as many think of it. The Big Four is an economic development strategy or framework which I have used to organize government delivery and to answer the question why in terms of the selection of the priority areas that we are working on. The philosophy of the Big Four is anchored in 4 intentions which we have pursued relentlessly this year despite the problem of COVID-19. The first one is liberating our urban poor from the poverty of dignity caused by poor housing and inadequate services. The second is transitioning our young people from being earners of wages to owners of capital. And the third is building a holistic base of human capital that is food secure and health assured. And the fourth is jump-starting the shift from being a country of net consumption to one of production. And this has been our why for the Big Four during this difficult year. Let me begin my report to you by discussing the poverty of dignity visited upon our urban poor. Indeed, it is a shame that almost 60 years after independence, a majority of our urban dwellers live in a dignity-poor environment. Their sanitary conditions are inhumane, their habitations are deplorable, and our intention is to reverse this. And the Nairobi Metropolitan Service is a pilot project that has been successful in rolling back the frontiers of this urban indignity. The other intervention we have engaged in is that of affordable housing under the Big Four. And my administration's pilot project at Park Road, Nairobi, is the first beacon on this journey that was delivered ahead of schedule and within budget. We have also concluded the successful incorporation and capitalization of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Corporation. This corporation will improve mortgage affordability, increase the number of qualifying borrowers, and result in the expansion of the primary mortgage market and home ownership in Kenya, while also deepening the capital markets through large-scale, medium to long-time refinance options. I would also like to report that there are also ongoing reforms in the land sector to improve access to land as a factor of development. Towards further promoting and sustaining Kenya's national development, the National Land Titling Program continues apace. During during my administration and over the last 7 years, 4.5 million new titles have been issued since 2013, as compared to 6 million titles issued from 1963 to the year 2013. These are not mere abstract statistics, honorable members. They represent very real gains from wananchi and the resolution also of long-standing historical land injustices. For example, just last week in Samburu County, only 2,000 group ranches were titled by the preceding administrations. But up to early this month, my government has issued over 10,000 new titles in Samburu County, and by January of next year, we are on course to have issued a further 15,000 title deeds. Honorable members, just over a month ago, I also issued a further 2,000 titles here in Embakasi Ranching in Nairobi, whose combined value to the owners is approximately 6 billion Kenya shillings in the hands of our people today. So, honorable members, to restore fully the sanctity of title, we are also digitizing all the land records across the Republic. This national endeavor is anchored under the National Land Information Management System, and the system is designed to enhance security of land records, improve accessibility, and also dramatically reduce the cost of land transactions. I call on all stakeholders, and in particular the Law Society of Kenya, to embrace and support this positive transformation that removes land information management in Kenya from its current 19th century system and standards to those that are more appropriate to the 21st century. Other reforms in this sector include the formulation of the Sectional Properties Bill to bring legal clarity to the ownership of sectional properties. The bill is in its final stages before introduction to this esteemed House. My prayer to you, honorable members, is that we may pass this bill that will allow millions of Kenyans access mortgage and credit for their apartments and smaller dwellings, and to create greater equity for all our people. Honorable members, let me underscore that eradicating the poverty of dignity is not just about securing tenure and dignified habitations. The poverty of youth dignity is also one of the areas that we have focused on. Youth pessimism and fatalism can also be turned to patriotism. If youth are liberated from the poverty of dignity, we have worked hard to give youth self-esteem and a sense of purpose. And we have done this because dignity comes from self-reliance and a sense of contributing to society. If the youth are given a sense of national importance, they will own the country and guard it jealously as active shareholders. Initiatives such as contracting youth artisans as suppliers to the Big Four projects is a visible example of this approach. The second intention under the Big Four during this report period has been about young people. My government's objective has been to shift our young people from being earners of wage to owners owners of capital. We have modeled this through engaging them in collective action. As we seek to grow our industries and create jobs in the manufacturing sector, we must of necessity have the manpower with requisite skills to match the needs of industry. Majority of the skills required are with respect to blue-collar jobs. To blue-collar jobs that need young men and women who understand the basics of the digital economy and who have the capacity to deploy both knowledge and ingenuity as they seek to solve practical problems. It has taken considerable effort on the part of my administration to educate both parents and young people that there is a viable education pathway for Form 4 leavers who do not achieve the necessary grades to pursue university programs. This pathway is anchored in the technical and vocational training program. Today I'm proud to report that we have so far enrolled 430,598 students in 182 technical and vocational training colleges across the country. The curricula for these institutions has been developed in partnership with industry stakeholders in varied sectors of our economy, ranging from the automotive industry, oil and gas, maritime and shipping, to agro-processing. We are also collaborating closely with technology partners to develop curricula for basic digital skills to allow our young people to take advantage of opportunities within the digital economy. Indeed, barely a month ago, I launched a border scheme meant to bring together 1.4 million riders in that sector who actively support 5.2 million families across the country. What I told them was that in aggregate, these riders make a total of Kenya shillings 357 billion every year, which is more than the total disbursements that we make to 47 counties through the National Exchequer, which presently stands at Kenya shillings 316 billion annually. And what I told them with these statistics in mind, it is clear that border riders can come together and become owners of capital and holders of major investments. We are encouraging them to engage in saving schemes and to work together in order to create a capital base that will enable them to own petrol stations, border assembly factories, and other investments that can transform their lives. Shifting our youth to become owners of capital also requires us to develop productive capabilities that move from the rudimentary to the complex operations. This is partly why we have revived Rivertex as a producer of textiles and a consumer of locally produced cotton. This is in line with the agricultural transformation strategy that obliges the growth of new strains of biotechnical cotton as a key area of opportunity for Kenyan farmers. The manufacturing pillar of the Big Four also aims to provide training ground for our young people to acquire skills and to replicate these in light industries. The third intention under the Big Four during this reporting period has been to develop a holistic human capital base. Our intention here has been to expand our health infrastructure and to guarantee that the individual is free from want and free from fear. Similarly, and in support of the holistic individual, I would like to report that measures aimed at achieving food security are already in place The implementation, for example, of the agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy is well underway. And we have also successfully reformed the agricultural import subsidy program. If we can achieve this intention of developing a holistic human capital base, then we will increase our national productivity and enhance our economic development. The fourth intention of the Big Four under this year's economic development program agenda is the commencement of the journey from being a country of net consumers to a country of net producers. And in order to make this shift, we must admit that we cannot experience any significant progress in manufacturing and agro-processing without the building of transport systems and making significant investments in energy. Honourable members, even as we mooted the Big Four intention, some of us recognized then, as we still recognize now, that the task of ending the indignity of not having decent shelter, the task of enhancing access to universal health coverage, the task of enabling all who are willing to live in dignity through sweat of their brow to thrive, and the task of ensuring food and nutrition security would not be completed in a single term of office. That being the case, we gave a solemn promise that by the end of 2022, we would have laid an unshakable foundation for the realization of this vision, which is a shared aspiration for millions of our Kenyans. As an enabler to the Big Four agenda, my government will continue to roll out seminal programs in response to the needs of businesses, both large and small. We are continuously enhancing the ease of doing business and creating an enabling environment for all our enterprises to thrive. Earlier this week, I commissioned a transit shed at the Kenya This from a low of 136th position globally in 2014. As an affirmation of our place of pride within the community of nations, Kenya now ranks #1 globally in protecting minority investors and 4th globally in terms of getting credit. The number of companies registered daily has increased by 500% from 30 in 2014 to 200 in 2020 and a daily average of 300 during the COVID-19 period. On aggregate, 400,000 companies are annually now registered in Kenya. My government, watu wanafanya biashara tu huko. Hata nyinyi. My government has heeded the cries for bold and decisive actions to reduce the unnecessary regulatory burden occasioned by the multiplicity of licenses at both the national and county levels. Our initial focus in Nairobi City County has seen the waiver of a single business permit to all new businesses registered in Nairobi for the first 2 years of their operations, effective March of this year. We have also waived the presumptive tax requirement for all new businesses. These two initiatives and others within our Ease of Doing program will now be aggressively rolled out nationwide as we endeavor to make it easier for both local and international investors to set up, operate, and expand their businesses. And our endeavor is to make Kenya the best country on the continent in doing business by the year 2022. And for this, I seek the support not just of this House, but also of our 47 county governments. As we continue to create an enabling environment for our enterprises to thrive, we are also enhancing connectivity in the country through ports, road and rail. In respect to key national trunk roads, the construction of the Nairobi Expressway project continues apace, and just last month, I witnessed the signing of Africa's largest public-private partnership funded project, the Nairobi-Mau Summit Expressway. These are milestones which will have significant impact on the economy by decongesting Nairobi's gateways on the part of the expressway project and by opening up the economies of increasing connectivity in Western, Rift Valley and Central Kenya on the part of the Nairobi-Mau Summit project. Honorable members, with regards ports and bridges, the Lamu Port Berth 1 is now complete, and the focus has shifted to bringing it into full operation for transshipment cargo. My administration is also now in the final stages of installing the Likoni Floating Bridge, an 824-meter long bridge costing 1.9 billion that will be the first automated floating bridge in Kenya. The Likoni Floating Bridge will help to decongest ferry transport at the Likoni Channel in the context of the COVID-19 safety concerns and beyond by providing a safe pedestrian connectivity from Liwatoni on Mombasa Island to Ras Bofu on the Likoni mainline side. Further, the Kisumu Port rehabilitation works are ongoing, and the new port is now, as we speak, already processing fuel products to Uganda. On our railways, 2 days ago, I commissioned the Nairobi Commuter Railway upgrades, which is set to dramatically change the public transport experience in Nairobi and across the metropolitan area. Additionally, we are undertaking rehabilitation of the meter gauge railway line along various routes. The Nairobi to Nyanyuki route is now back in service after decades of dormancy, with the Naivasha to Kisumu and Naivasha to Malaba route currently ongoing an overhaul under a multi-agency team coordinated by the Kenya Defence Forces. With regard to the energy sector, the last mile connectivity program crossed the 7.2 million household connections mark that the country is proceeding well towards our aspiration of 100% universal electricity access by 2022. We have also completed a national geospatial mapping exercise that has allowed us to catalog the wealth of our natural resources. It will also enable us to improve the management and use of land, the essential but finite resource that we share as a nation. To protect all these undertakings, honorable members, I am required to submit a report on the state of our national security pursuant to Article 240 of our Constitution. Honorable members, the state of our national security is strong. Our homeland is secure from the varied threats against it. For this, and on behalf of all Kenyans, and as the Commander-in-Chief, I give thanks and praise to the brave men and women of our security services. They have continued to rout out terrorists, arrested and prosecuted many. Their plots are detected and disrupted before they can cause serious harm to more innocent Kenyans. The war against crime and criminality continues apace, driven by the National Police Service that continues to undertake technological, human resource, and skills development to better service Kenyans. And while we celebrate the state of our national security, we must also recognize that our region is increasingly unstable. We are witnessing the escalating conflicts being caused by ethnicized and regionalized competition for political power. As has always been the case, we, as a country, are working hard to support peace and reconciliation processes where they are needed the most. We seek to export our peace and pragmatism to our region, knowing that success in our region will further secure our nation. Honorable members, we must always remember that the wages of bad politics is the people's suffering and ruin. Many neighboring countries today need a handshake. They need a politics in which competition is not turned into enmity and war. They need political leaders focused on including the young and desperate, not inciting them to revolt against their country and their elders. We have learned as Kenyans that elections alone cannot bring peace and unity to a divided people. For that, leaders must reach out to each other and build bridges over turbulent waters to allow the people to cross into safety and prosperity. Our state of national security will remain strong as long as we practice inclusive and sober politics. I ask the members of this House, all leaders, and all Kenyans to deeply ponder their role in promoting the politics that assures our security, deters our enemies, and is focused on serving the people. My administration is also implementing the following reforms in the security sector: the expansion of the National Police Service Control and Command Center for Surveillance and Communication, the successful launch of the Digital Occurrence Book Pilot Project, and in addition, I recently and very proudly unveiled the National Security Innovations exhibition at the Kenya Wildlife Service Law Enforcement Academy in Manyani in Taita Taveta County. This was a youth-driven, innovative project aimed at leveraging on technologies to address problems facing citizens, from cybersecurity, crime, revenue collection, gateways, social media communication, to geospatial mapping and resource consolidation, and even the manufacture of small arms. My government recognizes the important role played by ICT and innovation in overall national development. Information communication technology has greatly improved access to government services and enabled Kenyan youth access job opportunities outside Kenya. To ensure that Kenyans continue to enjoy these benefits, my administration has increased access to ICT infrastructure and connectivity through the rollout of the basic voice infrastructure in 67 sub-county locations in all unserved areas. To improve access to information and e-government services, my administration has also established 135 constituency innovation hubs across the country. Honourable Speakers, as part of my functions as President, I am also requested to submit a report for debate in the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. At the end of this address, I will indeed submit this report to this House. However, some of the key achievements of that report are worth mentioning in this State of the Nation address. As we relentlessly pursue our national development agenda, we remain alive to the fact that as a respected member of the community of nations, we have obligations on the regional, continental, and global stages. We are also acutely aware that the modern world is one where a myriad of transnational, traditional, as well as emerging security and ecological challenges pose grave threats to national security and development within our own borders. That said, we also do not lose sight of the tremendous opportunities available regionally, continentally, and globally for Kenya to deepen our shared prosperity. The East African community remains Kenya's foremost trade and investment priority, and we want to see even a further deepening of the integration processes within the EAC. Our people will reap the benefits of shared prosperity, and I look forward to working closely with all our neighbors to increase our exports within the East African community. And I am happy to note that indeed in 2019 our exports to the East African community jumped to a 6-year high. We joined the ranks, as we joined the ranks with our brothers within the African continent. In March of 2018, Kenya and Ghana were the first countries to not only sign but also to ratify the landmark agreement creating the African Continental Free Trade Area. And once again, honourable members, I thank you for your support in making that happen. This agreement brings the 54 African nations under one common market with a population of 1.2 billion and a combined gross domestic product of more than $3 trillion US. Indeed, as a champion of Africa's integration, I am elated that this agreement has officially entered into force and became operational on the 1st of July of this year. Honourable members, Kenya is also enjoying greater diplomatic goodwill and a deeper international friendship than at any other time in our history. We are engaging with the United Kingdom to evolve an arrangement that will guarantee us continued access to the United Kingdom market following their exit from the European Union. Similarly, we are proactively consulting with the United States of America for a solution that will ensure Kenya's continued access to the United States market beyond 2025, when the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act comes to an end without the need for the PAC's further renewal. Apart from deepening our cooperation with our traditional partners, we have also sought to unveil new frontiers for mutually beneficial cooperation with countries in Eastern Europe, the Asia-Pacific region, as well as the Caribbean. I am pleased to report to this House that last year Kenya assumed the presidency of the Organization of African and Caribbean and Pacific States for the period of 2019 to 2023. Based on our strong conviction that we should leverage on our rich experience and leadership to articulate Africa's issue in the global arena. We offered also our candidature for the non-permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council for the period 2021-2022. We obtained the overwhelming endorsement by the African Union, which was reaffirmed during the 33rd ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government that took place in Addis Ababa in February of 2020. And I am pleased to report that when elections were held in June this year, Kenya was elected as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council for that period of 2021-2022. Being a member of the most influential body of the United Nations gives Kenya an opportunity to play a more significant role in the pursuit of peace and security. And I wish to thank the African Union for its support, as well as the many friendly nations across the world who voted for us, for this is indeed a big win for Kenya and Africa. Honorable members, I will conclude my remarks today by touching on the deliberate steps that we have taken to place Kenya on a path to a greater national unity, inclusivity, peace, and reconciliation. In March of 2018, the former Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, and I launched the Building Bridges to a New Kenyan Nation initiative. To support the same, in May of 2018, we established the Building Bridges to Unity Advisory Task Force. And this task force has now completed its work and submitted its report, a report which has elicited great public debate. The report extensively evaluates our national challenges and makes robust and comprehensive practical recommendations to address them. Indeed, as we progress to the next phase of this, I urge all Kenyans to constructively consider the recommendations therein. More importantly, let us continue to address ourselves to these issues with a view to effecting far-reaching changes that will address the perennial challenges that we have faced as a nation, the challenges of negative ethnicity, inclusion, equitable development, and indeed our fight against corruption. Honorable speakers, honorable members, fellow Kenyans, like Moses in the Bible, who sat at the top of Mount Nebo and saw the future that the people of Israel were about to cross into the promised land, I too have seen our future. This is what this, fellow Kenyans, is what our future looks like. A Kenya where no one will ascend to a high public office on account of their tribe. A Kenya where no capable person will wallow in poverty because of poor governance. A Kenya where our potential as a people will be exploited for the greatness of our nation. A Kenya where we will all share equitably in this prosperity of our nation. I believe our future is bright. I believe the future is a future where truly justice will be our shield and defender. Every journey, fellow Kenyans, starts with a single step, taken in faith, at times against all odds. That journey has commenced. Major changes are needed to our Constitution and other laws so as to lay the foundation for the prosperous future that we seek. As a people, we must seize this constitutional moment, as I have said, to ensure that we deliver to future generations of Kenyan the future that they deserve. Indeed, Kofi Annan once aptly reminded us as a country that this world is not ours to keep. We hold it in trust for future generations. This moment in time is our meeting with destiny. When generations come long after we are gone, let them say that we made the right decisions at this moment, that we chose unity over division, that we dreamt of and birthed a happier, more harmonious and prosperous nation. Kenya, honorable members, is greater than any individual. Indeed, Kenya is greater than the sum of its citizens. We, honorable members, are a beacon of hope, an icon of peace and stability in a very volatile region. And we must be a role model for progressive African social democracy. These qualities are not inherent. We must continuously water them from the well of our national commitment to a better, brighter, and more inclusive Kenya for all. Honorable speakers, honorable members, finally, as we seek to grow our democracy and deepen institutional synergy within government, I challenge the leadership of our two houses of parliament to strive as much as possible, please, to resolve issues of concern by consensus building. As worldwide experience shows, there is always some level of jostling to be expected between the two chambers of our national legislatures, and that happens everywhere around the world. This happens as they each seek to better exercise their institutional mandates. However, honorable members, these issues should only escalate to external dispute resolution processes as a last resort. Doing otherwise hurriedly compromises the legislative authority of the House. On our part, as the executive, we will always be at hand to aid in that consensus building and to foster internally mediated outcomes within Parliament. So, honorable members, finally let me conclude by reiterating this. The state of our nation is strong, the state of our nation is steady and resilient. Similarly, the state of our economic development is and remains on course despite unexpected disruptions to our economy and way of life, chiefly from COVID-19. With regard to our national response to COVID-19, Kenyans must remain vigilant, and by so doing, we are capable of defeating this invisible enemy. And now, honorable speakers, it is my pleasure to submit to Parliament the following three reports as required by the Constitution. 1, the report on all the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of our national values. 2, report on progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. And 3, the report on the state of security. Further, and in recognition of the centrality of transparency, accountability, and good governance as the anchors of sustainable development, and while also conscious of the pivotal role played by micro, small, and medium enterprises in driving growth and creating opportunities, I do have the pleasure of submitting, alongside the constitutionally required reports, the following other reports. 1, the report on ease of doing business, milestones 2017 to 2020. And 2, the annual report of the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions for the financial years 2017-18, 2018-19, 2019-20. Kwa hayo machache na mengi, Mungu awabariki na Mungu ailinde taifa letu la Kenya. Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, you may be upstanding. Your Excellency the President, the Speaker of the National Assembly, honorable senators, honorable members of the National Assembly, it's now time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, 17th November 2020 at 2:30 p.m. in the Senate chamber. I thank you.
Your Excellency, the President, honourable members of the National Assembly, the National Assembly now stands adjourned till Tuesday, 17th of November at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.
That adjournment by both speakers of Parliament, Honorable Kenneth Lusaka of the Senate and the Honorable Justin Muturi of the National Assembly, marks the end of this special sitting that saw the Head of State, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, deliver the State of the Nation address, in which he addressed the COVID-19 pandemic, the education sector, which has taken a hit from that pandemic, youth empowerment, transport, the security of the nation, and of course the BBI, the Building Bridges Initiative report, following conclusion of the mandate of the task force, the President calling for positive discourse in order to build understanding and general consensus. Right now, he is headed to the Parliament courtyard, where he will officiate the state launch of the Kiswahili version of the National Assembly Standing Orders. My name is Vereso Mwanga. On behalf of the entire crew here, including Leonida Kaula and Kellen Kisila, who have been doing the sign language interpretation for you, I thank you for keeping it Channel 1. And following this State of the Nation address brought to you in collaboration with the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit, I want to now hand you over to my colleague Safin Acheng Ouma. She is on standby at the Parliament courtyard, where we will have the launch of the Kiswahili version of the National Assembly Standing Orders. Good evening.
Very powerful words from the head of state. Well said. Kenya, we want Kenya that is not tribal. Kenya that no one will wallow in poverty because of bad governance. We want a Kenya where we will share resources and prosperity. A future where justice will be our shield and defender. Reminding all Kenyans that Kenya is greater than any individual. Of course, the country has endured a lot of challenges, but the state of the nation is strong and resilient. Those were powerful words from the head of state after addressing a joint parliament sitting on the shield and defender, reminding all Kenyans that Kenya is greater than any individual. Of course, the country has endured a lot of challenges, but the state of the nation is strong and resilient. Those were powerful words from the head of state after addressing a joint parliament sitting on the shield and defender, reminding all Kenyans that Kenya is greater than any individual. Of course, the country has endured a lot of challenges, but the state of the nation is strong and resilient. Those were powerful words from the head of state after addressing a joint parliament sitting on the shield and defender, reminding all Kenyans that Kenya is greater than any individual. Of course, the country has endured a lot of challenges, but the state of the nation is strong and resilient. Those were powerful words from the head of state after addressing a joint parliament sitting on the shield and defender, reminding all Kenyans that Kenya is greater than any individual. Of course, the country has endured a lot of challenges, but the state of the nation is strong and resilient. Those were powerful words from the head of state after addressing a joint parliament sitting on the shield and defender, reminding all Kenyans that Kenya is greater than any individual. Of course, the country has endured a lot of challenges, but the state of the nation is strong and resilient. Those were powerful words from the head of state.
We have two houses battling or fighting for supremacy. And then there is, he now gave them that opportunity or told them there is an alternative dispute resolution way or route that doesn't have to be confrontational or even going to court. Like these, like I've seen some state agencies, another State Department going to court, taking the other State Department to court, which now he argued that let that one not happen again.
Indeed. And still on, you mentioned a fundamental issue on security, and he talked about Kenya being number 3 in sub-Saharan Africa in ease of doing business, and he wants us to be even better by the year 2022, be position 1 in the world.
Yeah, it's good because, you know, everybody is being told how to get a job after finishing college.
Yes.
But now there is now another opportunity where you're being told, look, there is a new way of making a living, bringing food to the table. That's doing business. And now, since Kenya now is becoming one of the best countries with ease of doing business, because the registration of a business entity or a company nowadays is so simple, now it means that you need to be told, now there is a new avenue of surviving, which the president has reiterated, that by the time presently or in the next few coming years, we should be number 1 in the world.
Indeed.
And we should be benchmarking with the best in the world.
4.5 million new titles in 7 years, as opposed to 6 million in more than 50 years, addressing the issue, the pertinent issue in the country of land ownership.
That has been, the issue of land is actually a motive because it involves livelihood and it involves the place where you know this is my home, but there is no documentation. But now, with an assurance from the president that having sampled out Samburu and giving them like 10,000 titles is a plus, or it is encouraging for Kenyans to know that these things are possible, because a title is actually an entitlement to live and do farming there and invest there, which is an encouragement because land is part of the Agenda 4 in terms of production of agricultural produce, which is again one of the greatest items that brings food security to a country. Yeah.
The economic stimulus package to cushion Kenyans, and especially now that we are dealing with COVID-19, to the tune of 176 billion shillings.
Yeah, that's the tune of 176 billion.
Of course, he has broken
if I
it
got
down
it right,
yes.
It was that it was before Corona. It's again a good gesture because he has brought it to the parliament to note that we had 176 billion stimulus package. We had like 5 billion credit guarantee schemes, but now that was before then. Now, because we have a pandemic, let the various committees in the parliament sit again and redistribute this amount to check that we bring again, or we actualize this economic stimulus package into reality, which is good because he actually talked to the right people. Senate, which deals with more of devolution, and then again the National Assembly, the Parliament, which deals with legislation of the laws. So the two now will marry the ideas and then now make the economic stimulus work for the economy of the country.
Of course, this year's State of the Nation address largely, of course, was hindered by the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, he has talked about 5,000 additional medical personnel and 11,000 medical interns as a big boost to the war on coronavirus.
Yeah, this is a good, by having 11,000 interns and the medics, like they said 5,000 health workers, it means that the Ministry of Health is actually making sure that this function, which is it is the function of the national government as well as the function of the county government, is actually operationalized. Now, what needs to be done in the health sector is where all stakeholders, now the presidency, the ministry, and the union. And the reason why I'm talking about the union is that they need to understand that this is available in terms of the money. And now, what do we do to actualize that we achieve this, which is part of the Agenda 4? Because it is, if we just deal with the legislation and the presidency, and then leave alone the union, you'll find them next week declaring that we have given the government 14 days ultimatum, we are going on strike. So it's good it came from the presidency, the parliament. Now, the minister in charge now, that is Honorable Kagwe, should now go to the boardroom, because they have been given a green light, and handle the issue of welfare, which is actually done by the union.
Indeed. And the foreign policy. He has noted, of course, that we have made tremendous steps. Of course, having a non-permanent seat at the UN is not an easy feat, because looking at Africa and the many security challenges that we have, and also you do remember that CS Amina Mohammed has actually vied for 2 posts in a span of less than 3 years. Does that strengthen our foreign policy and how the world outside see Kenya, and of course improving on the ease of doing business?
Yeah, Kenya is a country that you can never ignore in Africa. You can never talk of East Africa, the sub-Saharan area, or even the East and South Africa, even Central Africa, without mentioning Kenya. Kenya is an hub of business, is an hub of peace, and that is what is entailed in the United Nations. So Kenya being seeking a seat in the UN Security Council is actually is qualified. And that means the moment we are there, we can now bring about the unity within the East Africa, Central Africa, and South Africa.
We are headed back to Parliament, where our reporter Safin Achieng Ouma is on standby during the launch of the Swahili version of the National Assembly Standing Orders.
Get this right. Let me say hi. We're still at the Parliament buildings at the climax of the State of the Nation address by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who has just concluded his address inside the National Assembly main chamber. And right now he is just about to launch the Swahili version of the National Assembly Standing Orders, an event that is just about to kick off. But joining me right now is the Member of Parliament for Kiambu constituency, Honorable Jude Njomo, just to give us a bit of his reactions post the address by His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa, for joining us. Just your quick thoughts on what the President has shared today as part of his State of the Nation address.
Oh, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Now, the President came to the Parliament today to satisfy a requirement by our Constitution that every year he should give a State of the Nation address to tell us the state of our security organs, the state of our economy, and how our country is. And that is exactly what he has done today. Basically, he has talked about many things concerning our health, concerning our education, concerning COVID-19, and even concerning our state of security. On education, which has faced the biggest challenge this year because most of our students have been at home. Our primary school children left school early this year and they'll be going back in January. So it's been a big challenge. And even when they go back, the infrastructure that we have in the schools, will it enable them to observe the requirements of COVID-19? And he has challenged us as members of Parliament, together with the county governments and even the ministry, to come up with systems whereby we are going to improve and increase the number of classes and improve our infrastructure in such a way that we are not going to endanger our children when they go back to school. He has also enumerated that the rollout of CBC, competence-based curriculum, is fully done and it's going on well. And this is a system that is going to make our pupils they'll be able to better exploit the talents that they have, because they have a better ability to exercise their talents, and they'll be more practical than what the current curriculum is offering. So I think the President has done what he's required to do by the Constitution, and he had a very good address to the state about the state of our economy.
He has talked about the economic recovery plan and also how to sustain the economy during the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you feel like he has given you hope as a leader in how the government has been able to cushion Kenyans against the economic downturn?
Yeah, he has talked about the measures that the government has done that has enabled the banks to keep their interest down. Because with the interest down, people will be able to get loans and invest and make money. He has talked about the exercise that is ongoing of educating our youth through our TVET institutions. But I think we need to put much more effort to make our economy much more vibrant. He has given us, he has told us now, this is where we can start. To me, that is the starting point. There is much more that needs to be done so that our economy can improve. We have always looked at it like a plane that is going to take off. Our economy has been on the runway for so long. We have never gathered enough momentum to make the plane fly. And I think that is what we need to do now. We need to put the necessary instruments, we need to put the necessary fuel, we need to put the necessary energy so that our economy can finally take off, even if it's 50 years after our independence.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. I'd just like now to hand over to the function back to just follow up on what the President is doing. But of course, we will be getting more reactions from more members of Parliament. We are still here at the Parliament buildings who will be doing this. So right now, we just want you to hand over to the function that is currently ongoing, the launch of the Swahili version of the National Assembly Standing Orders.
Thank you, Safin. Still at the Parliament buildings, of course, the function there being the launch of the Swahili version of the National Assembly Standing Orders that the President is launching at the moment. And of course, Nahashon, You've heard the words of Jude Njom, of course, on education, another sector that the president has touched on. And he began with reminding the whole country that our kids are our future generations. And the CBC, he's talking about how well it has picked up, despite the fact that some people may say we haven't left the runway. The president was very clear when it comes to matters education on the successes of this new curriculum.
Yeah, I think we are going to, I like the term CBC. That is a competency-based curriculum, where there is, you see the competency of each and every child. Now, I think we are taking off because every stage has some the baby steps, which I think we have undergone through, and we are going. The steps that we have made, and that has been reiterated by the president, is that first of all, by January, all the schools will be on, because at least they have understood how to handle and all those measures of combating this pandemic, and after that, we are sure that there is a transition, which is very important, from class 8 to form 1. It was very important, and then again the class 4s also part of the transition. So as per the education, the sector, he has assured us, even those young parents, because we might have some unfortunate situation where we have our young girls who have become parents.
Yeah, and especially now that we have COVID-19, we registered huge numbers of teenage pregnancies in many counties.
Yeah, which is good to that the president
to give them a
second
chance.
It is not a death sentence.
Yes,
it's not condemnation. You are not actually thrown into the condemnation pit. You are being told that it's not the end of life. You are our child, and we learn through the mistakes. Unfortunately, again, for the parents, we need to learn that it's not actually the teachers only who do the parenting.
Yes.
Also, you as a parent, you do the parenting. Yeah.
Something that has come out, especially now that we have the coronavirus pandemic everywhere in the world, and especially here in Kenya, mental illness, of which he has talked about, it has caused a lot of stress, and has instructed the Ministry of Health to be on top of things, and even establishment of an office to be dealing with all these mental issues. Of course, a big boost to Mathare Hospital also.
Yeah. Actually, Mathare Hospital has now been upgraded to be an autonomous, or semi-autonomous or autonomous hospital, where they can be doing their own things, like just the way Kenyatta and Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital is.
Yes.
And then again, the desk or the section in the office of the Ministry of Health dealing with mental cases. It is actually somehow the tragedy, because the moment you have psychological issues, it doesn't affect you alone. It affects the people who are close to you. It's like an African proverb that says that if somebody walks naked, it is not you who is ashamed. It is us as our people who feel ashamed, and we feel like clothing you. So it means that it affects a lot of, it affects the family, which is a basic, just a family, a nuclear family is a basic unit of a family, father, mother, and children. And then after that, it affects also the society, because you find a situation where someone who is armed, maybe a policeman, going on a rampant shooting everybody, and or somebody committing suicide. So if we have that sector, and which is enhanced, anything to do with psychology can be observed. It's as simple as the way you dress, the way you take a bath, the routine things, that all of a sudden stops. So it's a boost to Mathare Mental Hospital, and it's a boost to the health sector as a whole.
Indeed. He has announced that January, all the schools will be reopened fully, and actually instructed the Ministry of Education within 14 days to make sure they have a calendar, a new calendar for the year 2021-2022. But do you think that parents will rest assured that their kids are safe. Looking at the COVID numbers that we are registering and even the COVID deaths that we are recording each and every day, they just keep rising and rising and rising. And we only have 1 month to January.
The issue of opening schools in January is more of it has been observed. Yeah. You have observed and you have actually read the environment, and you know that we send the class 4s, we send the class 8, and somehow they managed. They managed to cope with it, except maybe a 0.01%, because out of maybe 20,000 or 100,000 schools, maybe one school was actually closed, which is a 0.00%. So that assurance by the government that they are opening, and again, there are measures which are being done in every county or in every sub-county school, it tends to assure the parents that all is well. Yeah.
Back to health, universal health coverage, and of course, there is a revamp of the NHIF. Yeah. He's talked about the pilot of the UHC in the counties that the UHC pilot program started. Was a huge success, and of course told Kenyans that we are headed towards better health management in the country.
Universal health care was a very good idea, and still actually is a very good idea. That should be embraced, and actually that should be fully funded, because I saw in some quarters where the CS Honorable Kwage was saying that it might not be able to cater for COVID cases, and it will go back to Parliament to ask for more funds, so that each and every disease, each and every situation that a patient is in can be catered for. So, first of all, we need to encourage our citizens, or the mwananchi, that it's good to contribute to this scheme. Okay. You might not know.
Hold the thought. The President is currently speaking, so we go back to Parliament.
Sababu tumeongea sana leo, sitaki kuzidi hapo, lakini mwenzangu ndio waongee kidogo kwa niaba yangu. Ndugu yetu Mheshimiwa Bandi akuja hapa aseme machache kwa niaba ya Mheshimiwa Bandi. Karibu sana.
Alikuwa anamgonga.
Asante sana mtukufu Rais. Lakini sasa si unanionya jamani. Nilikuwa nikijitayarisha, lakini nataka kuchukua nafasi hii kusema asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais kwa kukuja kusaidia kuzindua siku ya leo, na nataka kusema asante. Tutatumia kitambulisho na utaona kama baadhi ameendelea sana kwa Kiswahili. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana. Nitaomba sasa nimwalike Mheshimiwa Rais ili aweze kuja mahala ambapo tutafanya uzinduzi. Nitaomba wengine tasalia kusimama kwenye viti vyetu. Mwelekeze Mheshimiwa Rais mkono wa kushoto. Wengine tasalia kwenye viti vyetu ili tuweze kumpa nafasi Mheshimiwa Rais anapofanya uzinduzi wa utumiaji wa lugha ya Kiswahili katika vikao vya bunge, ikiwa ni katika kanuni za kudumu za bunge la kitaifa. Mabibi na mabwana, tumpongeze kwa makofi Mheshimiwa. Asante sana. Nitaomba Mheshimiwa Rais aweze kupata nafasi ya kutia sahihi sehemu mbalimbali, labda vitabu vitano tu kama ishara
kidogo tu tuchukue picha. Asante.
Tuliosimama mbele ya Mheshimiwa Rais, tafadhali tukae kwa wetu wa bunge, officers wetu wa Senate, tafadhali tuwape nafasi. Lugha ya Kiswahili katika bunge zetu ina historia kubwa na ndefu tangia mwaka 1974 na kati ya mwaka 1907 hadi mwaka 1974 Kiingereza peke yake ndio iliyokuwa lugha ya biashara bungeni. Mwaka 1974 katika hotuba yake kwenye ikulu ya Mombasa, Mheshimiwa hayati Mzee Jomo Kenyatta alinukuliwa akisema kuwa nchi bila tamaduni imekufa, na ndizo sababu nahimiza kwa Kiswahili huenda kiwe lugha ya taifa. Mwisho wa nukuu. Miaka minne baadaye, mwaka 1979 kukawa na marekebisho ya katiba, ikiwa ni sheria moja ya mwaka 1979 iliyokubali kutumika kwa lugha aidha ya Kiingereza au ya Kiswahili katika shughuli za bunge. Sura ya 7 nambari 20 ya katiba na kanuni za kudumu za bunge nambari 77 na 223 inaweka wazi kwamba hapana hofu kwamba Kiswahili itakuwa lugha inayotumika katika shughuli katika makao na makavazi ya bunge. Sura ya 120 ya katiba inasema lugha rasmi ya bunge ni Kiswahili, Kiingereza na lugha ya Kenya ya ishara. Msemaji akianza kuzungumza kwa lugha yoyote, iwe ni Kiingereza au Kiswahili, yambidi basi kuzungumza hadi mwisho kutumia hiyo lugha. Ndio sababu siku ya leo tunazindua hapa utumizi wa lugha ya Kiswahili katika biashara za bunge katika kanuni ambazo zimewekwa. Mheshimiwa Rais anatia sahihi, ishara kwamba yote ambayo tumezindua siku ya leo yatatumika sasa, na furaha yangu ni kwamba kama alivyosema karani wetu, mwanzilishi wa taifa letu hayati Mzee Jomo Kenyatta akiwa na nia ya kuboresha na kukikolesha Kiswahili, siku ya leo tuyaona matunda yake kupitia kwa Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta, na tuwasema kongole. Kiswahili kibobee, Kiswahili kikomae, Kiswahili kikite mizizi, tupate wakwasi wa lugha, tupate waeledi na hata tupate wale ambao wamebombea katika nyanja mbalimbali za kukikuza Kiswahili. Lugha ya Kiswahili ni lugha iliyotamu, ni lugha ambayo imejikita katika mandhari mbalimbali, na sote kama taifa tunakienzi na kukifurahia, na ni ishara mwafaka kwamba tutakapokibuni na kukiokolesha Kiswahili, taifa letu litahesabika kama nchi ambazo zinakienzi Kiswahili. Mheshimiwa Rais anazidi kutia sahihi, ishara kwamba siku hii ya leo kwa miaka takriban labda 100 hivi tunaingia katika kumbukumbu. Vitabu vitaandikwa kwamba kadri ya uwezo wa Mwenyezi Mungu, kati ya nchi ambazo zina kanuni kuu ambazo zinatumia lugha mbalimbali, mojawapo ikiwa ni Kiswahili na Kiingereza, zingine Kifaransa, ni taifa letu la Kenya na hususan bunge letu. Wakati wowote unapokitumia Kiswahili kama njia moja ya kupasha ujumbe, sote tufahamu kwamba ni rahisi kuelewa. Tusipotumia lugha ngumu iliyo na misamiati, mitiririko, ukwasi wa lugha, wote ambao unaowazungumzia wataweza kukielewa. Kwa hivyo tunashukuru na kufurahia kwamba siku ya leo tunaidhinisha kwamba lugha ya Kiswahili itaweza kuzungumzwa na kutumika kwenye Hansard zetu bungeni na hasa katika biashara na shughuli za bunge. Itabidi basi, kama nilivyotangaza awali, kwamba mjumbe akianza kuzungumza kwa lugha ya Kiswahili itambidi kumaliza kwa lugha hiyo. Niliona ikiwa mushkil kidogo kwa Mheshimiwa Badi, maana ilimwetea kiwewe. Nitaomba sote tuweze kuondoka kidogo, ni muombe Spika wa Bunge la Kitaifa aweze kushika nakala yake na naibu wa rais vile vile, pamoja na Spika wa Seneti, na nitaomba tutasonga mbele kidogo tu ili tuweze kupata picha Mheshimiwa Rais. Tumpongeze Mheshimiwa Rais, amekwisha tia sahihi kanuni hizo, na nitaomba sasa ampokeze spika wetu. Atampa spika, nitaomba zake zichukuliwe. Mheshimiwa Rais atampa spika kopi moja aliyoitia sahihi. Yes, Mheshimiwa Rais anampokeza spika wetu. Nitaomba Mheshimiwa Rais atamkabidhi naibu wa rais. Nitaomba Mheshimiwa Rais atampokeza Spika wa Bunge la Seneti. Asante. Naye sasa Mheshimiwa Rais atashika yake ili tuweze kumaliza. Asante. Thank you so much. Asante. Thank you so much. Asante sana. Thank you. Nitaomba sasa tumpe nafasi Mheshimiwa Rais asonge mbele ili tuweze kumaliza sherehe yetu kwa wimbo wa taifa. Niombe tusimame sote sasa, walio na kofia ambazo si rasmi tuweze kuzitoa kwa wimbo wa taifa. Okay. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais, ataondoka kwa hiari yake, na tuendelee sasa kukolesha lugha ya Kiswahili. Kiswahili kitukuzwe.
As they say, Kiswahili kitukuzwe. The head of state has just launched the Swahili version of the standing orders at Parliament buildings, and he had mentioned that in his State of the Nation address. Of course, the 3 languages that are recognized in all counties and all the National Assembly is Swahili, the Queen's language, and of course the Kenya Sign Language. I'm seeing something here. I love that development on usage of Kiswahili in Parliament has been long due. Actually, this is Osotua. Okay, you haven't said where you are watching us from. Perhaps you can touch on that.
Yeah. It's a good thing because it's our heritage. Kiswahili is our heritage, where everybody is actually our second language before English, the third language from your mother tongue. So it has been long overdue. I agree with Osotwa, but I only on a light note, the way Honorable Badi was ambushed. We need to cope. We need yes. to build it and own it.
I think slang has interfered. Can't compose a sentence in Swahili. Yeah. But away from that, there are some issues we can look at because of the interest of time. He has mentioned about the 1 mile connectivity, of course, is supposed to be a big boost, especially for the informal sector.
Exactly, because the last mile connectivity is actually boosting, is actually taking electricity to the people. And there is no agenda 4 that is manufacturing without electricity, because even the informal sector, because I remember there's a place I went just in the rural areas, and you see even at 11 at night, there are people doing welding. So it has made some quarters of the country, or very many places in the country, to be a 24-hour economy. Likewise, there is even the small business, that's the lighting, the street light. Electricity actually translates to enhanced security. Yeah, so it's a good thing that the government and the president is coming from the president's mouth.
Yes.
It's himself.
Something also that is coming out, the informal sector of late has seen recognition, has been recognized by various leaders, and of course Uhuru has touched on the border sector. But before you respond to that, let's go back to Parliament, where Safin Achieng Ouma is on standby to give us a brief on what has just transpired. Safin, if you can hear me.
I'd just like to start with the Migori women representative, Dr. Pamela Odhiambo. Just to give us your sentiments on what stood out for you from what the president shared as the state of the nation. Are you contented as a leader? Are we at a good place?
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think as a mother, a leader, and somebody who wants to see progress, I am happy with what I've had today. I was privileged this morning to start off with the nation, as somebody was asking me in Citizen, to say what I expected. And I think I've met my expectation in 3 key areas. I was keen to hear what our president would say about the path to economic recovery. And I think 2 issues stand out here for me as a way of a matter of take home. One, the president has acknowledged that yes, we have had drawbacks, especially due to the pandemic, the COVID-19, which has bedeviled our country for almost now the better part of the year. But he has acknowledged that for us to be a stable economy, then we need to be more producers than consumers. I think that is a powerful message that I would like to re-echo to all Kenyans, that it is high time we stopped thinking that we are developing or we are economically stable by importing things from elsewhere to consume. It is better we produce. However crooked our production system is, we would rather produce. Number 2, in the terms of job creation, he is calling upon all the youth with talents and skills and whatever they can employ to start small and micro enterprises, which the government will be willing to support going forward. I think those are 2 key issues that I carried home as far as economic recovery and stability is concerned. On the issue of health, I was also keen to hear what is the president saying about the health situation in the country, especially with the many strikes that we have in the country about the doctors and the expenses that Kenyans go just to get health care. And he has said that the government is keen to make sure that nobody is deprived of health care, and is re-emphasizing the rollout of the universal health care that will make sure that everybody, if they are able to pay, fine. If they are not able to pay, the government will foot the bill. I think that is a take home for me. Last, in the area of education, I am passionate about education because that is what has made me who I am. The government and the president has clearly stated that no child in Kenya will be left behind. And therefore, I'm thinking as a way of policy going forward, let there be a very strategic defined policy of funding education, especially the so-called bursaries and what have you. You know, we have pockets of money scattered all over in the governor's office, in the MP's office, and every office. And much as everybody claims to be sponsoring students, most students are still dropping out of school because of lack of fees. I think we need to focus in this area and really come up with a standardized method. Like he has said, he is looking forward to the ministry to giving a standardized guideline on how to raise our classrooms. So the classroom that we have in Nairobi is exactly the same as the classroom I have in Migori and the one in Mandera, and it is equipped in the same manner. If we go that direction, then we can be happy that education will finally actually be the equalizer that it is supposed to be. Otherwise, I think I'm happy. He was even calling upon the border sector to consider creating assemblies for the border that they ride instead of waiting for the Chinese to make them and then we import. I think that is kudos to me. I want to see Kenyans pick their tools and we produce instead of consuming.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, Migori women representative, giving us her sentiments at the climax of this particular function by the head of state as he was addressing the nation. For now, we just like to hand it over back to studio. But before then, let me just talk to one Mheshimiwa here, just to also give me his remarks on some of the issues he, carried home as the highlight from the speech by the head of state.
Thank you, media. My name is Honorable Conchela, Member of Parliament for Kilgoris constituency. I did listen very carefully to the President's speech, and one very inspiring, or several inspiring issues that came up. One is the issue of Nairobi Metropolitan. He has launched trains to enable Kenyans to move on and about for business, to work from the suburbs of Nairobi with ease. And this is a very clear milestone that used to be there in this country when we got our independence. Now our people are able to go home without a lot of traffic jam and a lot of delay to get into work. Another very important issue is the issue of the youth. Now, the youth of this country are the majority of Kenyans. Today, there are 70% of our citizens are youthful. And it is a clear attempt during the four-point agenda of the president to ensure that the youth now become employers, not just employees or people who live from hand to mouth. They will have funds through government intervention to enable them now to be able to grow and run their own business and manufacture businesses, and with the support of the government. And in terms of rural migration, for example, which is now the thing which is coming to this country, people now can grow business, they can now stay at home, they can now build their own towns in their own county, and the more the Agenda 4 empowers the county government, the more we solve migration of our citizens from the rural areas to Nairobi, just because it's a bigger market. So these are the highlights that the president brought, and I'm very impressed that Kenya is now moving ahead. One last one is the issue of infrastructure, particularly road network. There are a lot of plans to do bypasses and construct road network, which will expand the economy of this country within a very short time. By 2030, if we implement the construction of super highway from Nairobi to Mombasa, from Rironi all the way to Mount Summit, the economy of this nation is going to double within a very, very short time. So we will actually attain our vision of 2030 as a developed country, to move from what we are now into maybe the first world. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Conchela. I'd just like also to get the perspective of the Member of Parliament for Lamu West, Mheshimiwa Stanley. Just give us your thoughts on what you think was the key highlight from what the President shared during this special sitting.
Thank you, Madam. And today we had a very good meeting, a public address of the State of the Nation by the President. One of the key things that I, as a representative of the people from Lamu County, is that the President have noted and have told the whole nation that Lamu Port is progressing very well. The first berth is done and the second two berths are almost complete. And for us, Lamu people and the coastal people, this is one of the greatest milestone achievements that we will remain to remember, and even our great-grandchildren, and not only Lamu, not only coast, it is entirely the country at large. The other aspect is the education sector, where Lamu we have been lagging behind, and through the President has told us to put a lot of effort regarding the national CDF, that is a fund for the CDF, and the Ministry of Education has been instructed to consider using the local available materials and to come up with houses or schools that are dormitories and classrooms that are eco-friendly and using the natural materials, so that at least by come January, when the schools are opening, we can have enough classrooms and infrastructure. And also looking at that, the preparedness for the opening of the 100% transition, which has worked very well for Lamu. The other aspect that we have really liked is the connectivity of electricity, which is a key thing that in Lamu and especially my constituency, that the last mile connectivity is going to get more support, and more houses are going to be connected. And we have this far enjoyed and some connectivity, and I can see going this way, we are going to really have a good development in our area. The other one is the road connectivity, that is the road connecting Nairobi, Mombasa, the Nairobi Express, the Mau Summit, and also our road that connects Lamu to Isiolo. So all these projects are going to be very instrumental. And we also want to appreciate the state of the security he has assured us as a country, and especially the coastal people, the Lamu area, where we have had several problems in the past. That now going forward we are well secured, and of course this can be clearly seen because for the last couple of years we have been safe, and we can see a lot of transformation in Lamu. And also the issue to do with the ports, the airports, the port of Mombasa, and all this is going to be of great help to us as a country and also as Lamu people.
All right. Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa. Also, just getting your quick thoughts on what you think is the greatest point that you got from the speech by the President. You can just begin by telling us your name.
Asante sana na kushukuru sana. Jina langu ni Mawadhe, Musili Mawadhe, mbunge wa Embakasi South. Na kilichofurahia kabisa ni speech kwa speech ya President ni advisor aliotupatia kama wabunge, na makuja ameheshimu bunge na akatuomba tafadhali tushirikiane na yeye, tushirikiane mikono ndiposa tuhakikishe ya kwamba hii katiba tunazungumzia kubadilisha ambao ni BBI tumeipitisha. Uzuri wa hii katiba haiongezi mzigo kama watu wanavyosema. Actually katiba BBI inapunguza mzigo kwa vile kuna mawaziri 22 ambao huwa wanalipwa kutoka nje. Sasa watakuwa wanatoka ndani ya bunge. Na wao mawaziri 22 wakitoka ndani ya bunge inamaanisha sio hakuna wengine wanaongezeka. Jambo la pili, waziri mkuu pia anatoka ndani ya bunge. Currently anaitwa majority leader ama kiongozi wa wengi ndiye atakuwa prime minister na deputies wake wawili. Kwa hivyo hamna jambo la kusema kwamba tunaongeza wananchi. Tunaongeza watu wanao samani. Naongeza idadi ya watu ambao wanalipwa na taxpayer. Jambo lile lingine ni issue ya President ametushawishi ama ametuomba tafadhali kama inawezekana tutumie pesa za CDF kuhakikisha kwamba tujenga mashule na tuhakikisha kwamba tumenunua desk, ndipo watoto wanaporudi shule Januari wako na mahali pa kwenda kusoma. Kwa constituency yangu hasa mimi ambaye niko na shida ya mashule na desks, mimi nahakikisha kwamba nitajenga shule zingine 3 kwa vile kwa sasa na shule moja tu ya sekondari. Kwa hayo mengi mimi namshukuru Rais kwa kuja kushikana na wananchi, ndipo tusaidiane tuhakikishe kwamba pia tumesaidia youth wetu. Asanteni sana na Mungu awabariki.
Kuhusu yale ambayo serikali imefanya katika kupambana na janga la corona, yale ambayo Rais amezungumzia, pointi karibu 10, wewe kama mbunge una mtazamo upi kuhusu yale ambayo serikali imefanya?
Tunashukuru Rais kwa kazi nzuri na serikali kwa kazi nzuri walofanya. Kwa sasa amesema tushikane mikono. Pia nasi tuingize kama inawezekana tuingize senti kidogo kutoka kwa CDF angalau tuwasaidie hasa kwa mashule na pia hospitali. Rais alikuja kulaunch hospitali Mukuru kwa Ruben na hospitali nyingine inajengwa Mukuru kwa Njenga ambao ni area yangu na mabarabara, na wametuchimbia boreholes Mukuru kwa Njenga, pia Mukuru kwa Ruben na pia Imara, na tumeelewana na wenzetu ya kwamba ardhi wote watakuja tujengea hata zile ward zingine. Kwa hivyo tunashukuru sana rais kwa usaidizi aliotupatia na kuhakikisha kwamba tumepambana hili janga la corona.
Asante sana mheshimiwa.
Asante na mbarikiwe.
Tunashukuru.
Asante.
All right. So those are just the sentiments of some of the leaders, the members of parliament who were part of this special sitting today as the President Uhuru Kenyatta was issuing his State of the Nation address that is coming in the wake of the second wave of the COVID-19 infections in the country. He took quite a bit of time to highlight some of the issues that the government has done just to help us, not just to flatten the curve, but also to sustain ourselves economically during these hard times, and also lay out the way forward on the post-COVID-19 economic plan. He also talked about plans that are underway for the reopening of schools for other learners who are not in the examination classes, saying that in 2 weeks the Ministry of Education ought to give the timetable of the time frame on when these learners are set to resume classes. That is expected to be by January 2021. Also, the President talked about quite a lot of issues that touch on issues to do with also creation of jobs, and also just hailing efforts that have been put in place in the technical and vocational training institutions, just to ensure that young people have the necessary skills that they need in the job market. Just one more, Mheshimiwa, for Dagoretti South here, John Keria. Thank you so much for creating time for us. Just your quick thoughts on what you take home today.
Wonderful. Today we have had the honor of hosting the President at the August House at Parliament, and what is amazing is that many people call it the State of the Nation address, but in essence it's normally a presentation of 3 reports that the President is required to present every year to Parliament. He's supposed to present a report on the measures taken and the progress taken on national values. He's required to present a report on our progress, on our national obligations. He's required to give us the state of national security. Now, the President has given the 3 reports, but in addition to that, he has added 2 more reports. He has given us an extra report on ease of doing business in this country. He has also given an extra report on the progress in the office of the DPP on matters prosecution, matters corruption, matters governance. Now, in the overall, the President has talked about very many issues, but I would say that he has very eloquently stated where the problem is. As Kenyans, we know what maladies are ailing us. The question now coming out of this speech is whether we are offering the right medicine for the maladies that have been diagnosed, because he has talked about all the maladies that Kenya is suffering from, up to and including the new malady of COVID that has hit us. The question is, are we applying the right sebum, the right medicine, the right panacea for these maladies? And the truth of the matter is, we have learned, even as we have seen from the speech of the head of state, that there is not one single hypodermic needle that you can inject the country and heal all these maladies. So there are people who have been telling us that maybe we might get one report in the form of BBI and we will heal all our maladies. The President has proven that no, there are many other measures that need to be taken by all people who are stakeholders to make sure that the nation progresses, especially out of this COVID. The President has also talked very widely and given a very good report on the Big Four agenda. And it is ironic, though, that he's giving this report on a day when we are being told that NHIF cannot cover COVID treatment in this country, which in itself is a tragedy. In a country where we are told that 43 billion Kenya shillings that was required to go into the COVID efforts disappeared in people's pockets. So that is why it was important for us to also see this report from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, so that we see whether we are treating this malady called corruption. Finally, the President said rather poetically that he has been to the top of the mountain, just like Moses. And Moses was able to see the land that was promised by God to his people. And the President has done a very eloquent presentation of where he sees Kenya going as Moses from the top of the mountain. So there is a challenge to the younger generation in this country to realize that the beautiful vision that Moses has seen we have to get there. And it will take a Joshua for us to get to the promised land. So we, the Joshua generation, must also step up the challenge that has been given by the president so that we get to the promised land. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. As one of the Joshua generations, I see where you're going there. Thank you for giving us the medical approach on how to solve the issues that are facing the country. He says we have the diagnosis, but do we have the right treatment for what is ailing our country? That is Mheshimiwa John Kiarie. Now, thank you so much for keeping us company since we began bringing you this live broadcast in the morning on a special day when President Uhuru Kenyatta was addressing the nation. The president, in his words, said the nation is in a strong place, the nation is in a stable place, and the nation remains resilient. Amidst of all the challenges we have faced, we are not beaten. We will not go back on the gains that we have made. We are moving forward and we are pushing this country forward. My name is Safina Cheng Ouma, and my camera person has been Andrew Lugusa. On behalf of the entire team that has been on the ground bringing you this live proceedings, we thank you for your company. Right now we want to hand you over back to the broadcasting house.
And thank you, Safin Acheng, for that biblical note. And we are also wrapping things up here in studio. And before we wrap up, your final word, Nahashan.
We really need to thank the president for this comprehensive set of the nation. It served the purpose and the constitutional right for us as Kenyans and the parliament to be addressed on the state of the nation. So we believe in going forward, and we will give the president the full support he needs so that all the Agenda 4, as well as the inclusivity and unifying factor of the government, is achieved. So we pray for the country, and we believe we are stronger together.
Indeed, and I will also wind it up there. Of course, so many people are watching from even abroad. And thank you so much for everyone who has watched. And as the president has said, Kenya is greater than any individual. Dominic Nganga from Kabati, Samuel Osonga from Funyula. We also have Jim Karu. There are so many, but thank you so much indeed for watching. And also I want to say a big, big, big thank you to all the teams, both at Parliament and right here at the Broadcasting House, including my directors for the day since 10 a.m., Zipi Mudoi and Amos Ongweri. Not forgetting Vereso Mwanga and Safina Cheng Ouma, Andrew Lugusa, and all the crew who made this broadcast a success, including all the crew right here at the Broadcasting House. Byron Abuli has been our sign language interpreter for this evening. My name is Ben Troinjwe. Thank you for keeping me company since 10 a.m. I can see now it's past 5. But remember, as the president has said, Kenya is greater than any individual on this country. Good evening.